Right, Alice Springs just hit 43 degrees while Melbourne is sitting at 16. Is your suburb about to cop a massive temperature swing in the next 72 hours? Because what is developing across northern Queensland right now has the Bureau of Meteorology watching 3 states very closely, with severe weather warnings already active for coastal communities from Cairns down to the Sunshine Coast. I am going to break down exactly when this system hits your area, what the models are showing for the weekend, and why tomorrow's forecast update is absolutely critical. Chuck your location in the comments right now, and I'll get you a personalised forecast for tomorrow's video. Let me give you the timing straight up. Sydney, you are looking at showers arriving late Thursday, heaviest Friday morning, clearing by Saturday arvo. Melbourne, dry until Friday night, then a cold front brings you 20 to 30 millimetres overnight into Saturday. Brisbane, the big story here, heavy rain developing Wednesday night. Could see 50 to 80 millimetres through Thursday with possible thunderstorms. Perth, you are in for a scorcher, 41 degrees Wednesday, 42 Thursday, not dropping until that sea breeze kicks in Friday. Adelaide, relatively settled midweek, but that same front hitting Melbourne reaches you Saturday morning. Hobart, you've got the coldest air mass of the season arriving Thursday, minimums down to 8 degrees. Darwin, typical build-up conditions, afternoon storms daily, 32 to 34 degrees. Now here's what got my attention. There is a strong tropical low developing in the Coral Sea and the models are not agreeing on its track. Access is showing this system intensifying as it moves southwest toward the Queensland coast, potentially bringing very heavy rainfall to coastal areas between Townsville and Bundaberg. But the European model, and this is significant, reckons it stays further offshore and weakens as it encounters wind shear. This 100-kilometre difference in the track changes everything for southeast Queensland. If access is right, we were talking about flooding rain for Brisbane, the Gold Coast and the Sunshine Coast. If the European model is correct, you will see moderate falls but nothing extreme. Tomorrow morning, S model runs should give us much better clarity. Let me break down what is happening across the eastern seaboard right now. Currently, we've got a high pressure system sitting over the Tasman Sea, and that has been directing warm, humid air right up the New South Wales coast. That is why you're re-seeing those muggy conditions from Newcastle down through Sydney to Wollongong. The humidity's been sitting above 80%. And yeah, look, I know it's been uncomfortable, especially overnight when temperatures aren't dropping below 22, 23 degrees in the metro areas. For you lot in regional New South Wales, Wagga Wagga, you are sitting at 34 degrees today, overnight minimums around 18. Dubbo, similar story, 36 today, warm night ahead. Coffs Harbour, you are in that humid coastal zone, 28 degrees, but feels like 34 with that moisture in the air. The thing is, this pattern continues through Wednesday before that change arrives. Now, Queensland, let me be specific about this developing situation. Cairns and the far north, you are already seeing increased shower activity, 20 to 40 millimetres possible over the next 24 hours. Townsville, scattered storms today and tomorrow. Some could be severe with heavy rainfall and damaging winds. The Bureau S already issued a severe thunderstorm warning for parts of the North Tropical Coast. Mackay and the Whitsundays, Uri on the southern edge of this activity, showers increasing Wednesday, Rockhampton, Gladstone, Bundaberg. This is where the uncertainty really kicks in, depending on that low pressure system's track. Hang on, let me clarify what I mean by uncertainty here. We're not just talking about whether it rains or doesn't to rain. We're talking about the difference between 30 millimetres and 150 millimetres. That is, the difference between typical wet season rain and a significant flooding event. The pressure gradient between this tropical low and the high over the Tasman is going to determine wind strength, rainfall intensity, and how long the system lingers. Check back tomorrow because the overnight model runs will show us whether this tightens up or spreads out. Victoria, you are dealing with a completely different air mass. Geelong, Ballarat, Bendigo, you've got relatively cool conditions for this time of year. Maximums in the low 20s, overnight minimums down to 11, 12 degrees. Shepparton in the north, Uri warmer, 27 today, but that cold front I mentioned earlier arrives Saturday morning and drops you back to 21, 22 degrees. The front itself isn't particularly strong, but it is bringing a wind change from northerly to southwesterly, and that LL usher in cooler air from the Southern Ocean. South Australia, Adelaide is sitting at 31 degrees today, bit of a warm spell midweek. Mount Gambier in the southeast, Uri cooler at 24 degrees, and you'll see that front arrive earlier than Adelaide, probably Friday night. Whyalla and Port Augusta in the north, you are in the mid-30s, 34 and 36 degrees respectively, staying warm through the week. The fire danger is elevated across agricultural areas, so stay alert to any total fire ban declarations. Western Australia, Perth, this is where we're re-seeing some genuine heat building. The European model and access are actually in pretty good agreement here. A heat trough is developing inland, and that S is going to drag hot easterly winds across the southwest. Wednesday, 41 degrees, Thursday, 42, possibly 43 if that easterly flow really establishes itself. Now, here's the thing. The Fremantle doctor should kick in Friday afternoon, dropping you back to 34, 35 degrees. But Wednesday and Thursday, you are looking at severe to extreme fire danger ratings. Any fires that start will spread rapidly. Bunbury, south of Perth, you are looking at 38 Wednesday, 39 Thursday. Geraldton to the north, 40 degrees both days. Kalgoorlie way out east, you are in the low 40s consistently. Broome up in the northwest, you are in typical build-up pattern, 34 degrees, high humidity, afternoon storms, possible but not guaranteed. Right, at around the 3-minute mark here, if you haven't already, drop your location in the comments. I go through these every evening and I'll give you a detailed outlook in tomorrow's video. Seriously, whether you are in a capital city or regional centre, I want to help you plan your week. Tasmania, and this is interesting, you are about to get the coldest air of the season so far. Hobart, currently 17 degrees, but by Thursday morning, you are waking up to 8 degrees. Launceston, similar story, minimums down to 6 degrees in the northern suburbs. Devonport on the north coast, slightly milder but still cold, 9 degrees Thursday morning. This cold air mass is coming straight up from the Southern Ocean and it's bringing snow to the mountains. Mount Wellington could see snow above 900 metres Thursday morning. Not a huge dump, but definitely wintry conditions. Northern Territory, Darwin, you are in classic build-up conditions, 32 to 34 degrees, humidity sitting around 70 to 80%. That feels like temperature is pushing 38, 39 degrees. Afternoon and evening thunderstorms are on the cards every day this week, typical monsoonal trough activity. Some of these storms will be severe with heavy rainfall, lightning and gusty winds. Catherine, south of Darwin, 37 degrees, drier conditions than the top end. Alice Springs in Central Australia, as I mentioned at the start, 43 degrees today, 41 tomorrow, finally dropping to 38 by Friday. Australian Capital Territory, Canberra, you are sitting at 26 degrees today, warming to 29 Wednesday. Then that same system affecting Sydney brings you showers Thursday night into Friday. Could see 15 to 25 millimetres, nothing extreme, but enough to make things greener. Now let me talk about what is happening offshore and why it matters for the weekend. There is a cut-off low developing in the Great Australian Bight by Friday. This is a slow-moving system and it is going to bring widespread rain to South Australia, Victoria and Tasmania from Friday through Sunday. The good news is we're not expecting severe weather from this system. The bad news is it is going to be persistent, cloudy and cool. Adelaide, you could see 40 to 60 millimetres across Friday and Saturday. Melbourne, similar amounts, heavier Saturday. Hobart, 30 to 50 millimetres, and with those cold temperatures, snow levels could drop to 600 metres over the weekend. Here is something that's got me a bit concerned. The timing of this cut-off low and that tropical low off Queensland creates a really interesting pattern for eastern New South Wales. If they both develop as access is suggesting, we could see a significant rain event for the Sydney Basin and Hunter region late week into the weekend. I am talking about the potential for 100 millimetres plus in 24 to 48 hours. Now, the European model is less aggressive with both systems, so this is very much a developing situation. Actually, I should be more specific about the fire danger situation across the country. Western Australia, Wednesday and Thursday, you were looking at severe to extreme fire danger ratings for pretty much everything south of Geraldton. South Australia, elevated fire danger Wednesday, easing Thursday. Victoria and New South Wales, fire danger is currently low to moderate, but that changes quickly if winds increase. Queensland coastal areas with that humidity and potential rainfall fire danger is low. But inland Queensland, particularly central Queensland and the Channel Country, you are still dealing with elevated fire danger despite the approaching wet weather. The Indian Ocean dipole is currently neutral and we're retransitioning out of a weak La Niña pattern. What that means practically is we're re-seeing more typical summer conditions rather than the extreme wet we had during strong La Niña years or the extreme dry during El Niño. The monsoon trough is active across northern Australia, which is why Darwin and the top end are seeing daily storm activity. Let me give you some more regional detail because Australia is a massive place and conditions vary wildly. Gold Coast, you're 28 degrees currently, but with that tropical moisture, feels like 34. Heavy rain, likely Wednesday night through Thursday, could impact beach conditions. Sunshine Coast, same story. Noosa through to Caloundra, expect significant rainfall midweek. Toowoomba on the ranges west of Brisbane, URE cooler at 24 degrees, but you'll see heavy rain as well, possibly heavier than the coast if orographic lift comes into play. Newcastle and the Hunter, currently 27 degrees. Humid conditions continuing. Lake Macquarie, Port Stephens, similar conditions. Rain arrives Thursday, heaviest Friday morning, 30 to 60 millimetres possible. Wollongong and the Illawarra, 26 degrees today. You are in that same humid air mass as Sydney. Rain timing is Thursday night through Friday. Bit of a mixed bag for the eastern states this week, really. You've got northern Queensland dealing with tropical moisture and a developing low pressure system. Southeast Queensland and northeast New South Wales potentially facing heavy rainfall. Victoria and South Australia watching that cut-off low approach for the weekend. And Western Australia battling extreme heat midweek. There's one thing I want you to remember from this forecast. The next 48 hours are critical for model clarity on that Queensland tropical low. If it tracks closer to the coast, we are talking about a significant weather event for millions of people. If it stays offshore and weakens, it's a much less impactful system. The difference between these scenarios is why I am saying check back tomorrow, because tonight S model runs will be crucial. Let me give you the weekend outlook broadly. Sydney improving Saturday afternoon after Friday S rain. Sunday looking partly cloudy, 24 degrees. Melbourne wet Saturday, improving Sunday, 19 to 21 degrees. Brisbane, this is where the uncertainty is highest. Could be clearing Saturday or still wet depending on that system S movement. Perth, beautiful weekend after the midweek heat, 30 to 32 degrees. Sunny. Adelaide, wet Saturday, clearing Sunday. Hobart, cold and showery both days, 15 to 17 degrees. Darwin, typical storm activity, 32 to 34 degrees. Canberra, showers clearing Saturday, improving Sunday. Now, the models are showing some interesting developments for early next week. There is potential for another frontal system to cross the southeast Monday or Tuesday, but at S too far out to be confident. What I can say is that the pattern remains active. We're not looking at extended stable high pressure dominance. For coastal waters, there is a strong wind warning current for parts of the Queensland coast, winds reaching 35 to 40 knots, seas building to 3 to 4 metres. If you are planning any boating or water activities on the east coast this week, check the latest marine warnings. Western Australian coast, relatively settled conditions despite the heat on land. Around the 12-minute mark now, and I really want to hear from you in the comments. Whether you're in a small town in regional Australia or a capital city, tell me where you are. I read through these comments and I genuinely want to help you prepare for your week ahead. Tomorrow S forecast will have updates on that tropical low, refinement on rainfall totals, and more detail on the weekend outlook. The Bureau of Meteorology has done an excellent job keeping warnings updated, and I am using their data alongside Access model outputs, the GFS American model, and the ECMWF European model. When I talk about model disagreement, I am not saying the forecasters Don T know what they're redoing. I am saying the atmosphere is complex, initial conditions matter, and small changes can lead to different outcomes. That ESY daily updates are so important during evolving situations. One more thing about the heat in Western Australia, 42, 43 degrees is dangerous. Stay hydrated, avoid outdoor activity during the hottest part of the day, check on elderly neighbours and never leave kids or pets in cars. Heat kills and Western Australians know this, but it's worth repeating every time we see temperatures like this. Looking at the broader picture, summer 2026 is shaping up to be interesting. We are seeing active tropical systems in the north, which is typical for this time of year. We are seeing variable conditions in the southeast, which is also fairly typical. The heat in Western Australia is noteworthy, but not unprecedented. What I'm watching for the rest of summer is whether we see any prolonged heatwave conditions across the southeast, because that S when fire danger becomes critical. The jet stream position is important here. Currently, it is sitting well south of the continent, which is allowing tropical moisture to penetrate further south than it sometimes does in summer. That northern Queensland low is tapping into this tropical moisture, which is why rainfall totals could be significant. If the jet stream shifts further south, we see more of these systems, more rainfall for eastern areas, and cooler conditions overall. If it shifts north, we do see drier, hotter conditions dominate. Reckon I should mention the long-range outlook briefly. The Bureau-S seasonal forecast suggests above-average rainfall for northern and eastern Australia through February and March, which aligns with what we are seeing develop this week. Southern Australia average to below-average rainfall, which means that cut-off low this weekend might be one of the few significant rain events for South Australia and Victoria in the coming weeks. Right, let me bring this all together. The next 72 hours are crucial for Queensland and northern New South Wales. That tropical low is the headline story, and we'll know much more tomorrow. Western Australia, you are dealing with dangerous heat Wednesday and Thursday. Southeast Australia, wet weekend coming from that cut-off low. Northern Territory, typical build-up conditions continuing. Tasmania, coldest air of the season arriving Thursday. The models have given us good guidance, but there is still uncertainty, particularly around that Queensland system. I'll have the overnight model runs analysed for tomorrow's video, and I'll be able to give you much more confident rainfall totals, timing, and impacts. This is why checking back daily during active weather patterns matters. Forecasts evolve, model runs update, and your planning needs current information. For tomorrow's video, I am going to focus heavily on that tropical low, provide updated weekend rainfall totals for the southeast, and give you a detailed look at next week's pattern. I'll also be responding to comments, so seriously, tell me where you are and what weather you're experiencing. I really appreciate you watching. Australian weather is incredibly diverse, from tropical Darwin to temperate Hobart, from coastal Sydney to inland Alice Springs. Trying to cover this whole continent in one video is challenging, but I want to make sure everyone gets useful information. Tomorrow's video will be up around the same time, so I'll see you then. Stay safe, especially if you are in areas facing extreme heat or